Hello everybody and welcome to Ed's Boat. A big hello to all the new subscribers, thank you for watching. Right, in the last episode, well, we were doing a little bit of maintenance and fixing of the hatch. In this episode, well, it's all about sanding and painting, and what a pain that is and what a long involved job that is. So let's get over to the boat and start work. Well, I've got the fire on today because it's not very warm and I'm absolutely frozen at the moment. I'm full of lurgy, which is why I'm not going to be filming myself, because who wants to see a big red blotchy face full of Randolph Scotts? Anyway, I put the fire on because I just need to get out because I'm frozen all the time. Because I'm going to do a little bit of work outside at the moment because I've had a delivery, and here it is. I have bought a new sander and there it is. Comes out of the box, you get a little collection bag with it. You have to fit the handle on, just screw that on, but it does come with 4 packs of discs as well, 10 discs in each pack, all of different grades. I went for the Makita, which is a little bit more expensive than some of the other ones available, but it is a proper random orbital sander. It vibrates and rotates as well. Some of them on the reviews for the cheaper ones don't do that. Makita, I've used Makita stuff before. It's pretty durable and we have got a lot of work for that to do. So without further ado, I'm going to plug it in and start doing a bit of sanding. Right, we're all plugged in, ready to go, and one of the features of this sander is it's got a really long lead with it, which is absolutely essential when you're trying to sand in places. It makes life a lot easier. Variable speed setting, got it set to maximum of course. It's got a 150mm base on it, or 6 inches. I've gone straight in with 80 grit. And let's have a go at sanding. Straight away it's broke through the primer, so all the variations in the paint height have been taken out really quickly. Need to get rid of some of these rust marks, get a coat of paint on it just to winterize it a bit, and then we'll do a final coat another day and do some finishing with it. But in the meantime, I'll just crack on with it. Okay, finished sanding the top, got all the worst of the scars out and this sort of thing. Took about 15 minutes. The sander made short work of it really. A little bit dusty but not too bad, but I'm doing a small area, so hopefully that dust didn't disturb anybody else. Right, same drill as we did in the cratch. Going to use the roller and the paint tray and then tip it off with a brush. We'll put a layer of paint on this cratch cover, leave that to go off and harden up nicely, and then later on I'll probably block that down with a bit of wet and dry, and we'll put another layer on it when we paint the rest of the boat. But this should protect it through this nasty weather for the time being. Well, I painted the roof and it all went really well and it was looking really good. Then it started raining and it pretty much rained all night, so it has marked the paint considerably, but that's not important. What's important is there's a good layer of paint on the hatch. I know I said cratch earlier, I apologise about that, but there's a good layer of paint on the hatch. That will keep the weather off, stop the rust getting hold of it. We'll let that harden off for a few days, then we'll just block it back with a bit of wet and dry, and then put a top layer of paint on it to give it a nice finish. But happy that it's all sealed up and weatherproof. Today I have hired the polytunnel, well I'm in for the next couple of days, to do some sanding and painting. Now the reason I've hired the polytunnel is I need to get out of the weather. It's raining every 10 minutes really, although it is pretty good at the moment. You watch my luck, it'll be brilliant weather while I'm in the polytunnel. But that's the way it goes. But I didn't want to take the risk, so I needed to keep the roof dry so I could sand it down and dust free as best as possible, stop insects and bits of leaf and stuff like that blowing into it. What I've done is I have stripped back the front of my temporary cratch cover so I can sand underneath, and it looks like the last person who painted the roof didn't do that. I've started sanding down the grab rails at the side. I did them by hand and God, that made your hands sore. This is where I'm up to with my sanding at the moment. We've just done the back corners there. We redid the hatch earlier, we saw that, but it's a question of just sanding all the way down the top of the roof, which is going to take me a long time. Got the new sander and it's looking a little bit more used now. But if I go to the back of the boat, all these back rails and the tiller arm have all been cleaned down. There's a little bit of surface rust coming from the overnight dampness, but we'll only take 5 minutes to clean that off. But that was all rubbed down by hand, and those paint layers were really thick. And yeah, there's about 6, this boat's been painted about 6 times. So getting through all those layers took a long time, and my hands got very sore, to the point where my fingernails started getting sort of squeezed out my fingers and started bleeding. But yeah, we recovered a little bit from that. But what I have noticed about the roof is that the paint layer on top, whereas it's quite scarred and marked up and it's sanded up lovely, I'm going to use that as the primer, including some of the original primer underneath as well, because the paint's pretty dry, it's on quite well. There's no point in priming it if it's already got a layer on it. So we're going to try that and paint straight over the top of this. Now I've done a test paint, I've had no paint reaction, so we should be good to go. So it's just a question of get on with it and start sanding. Every time I put a pair of paper overalls on and a dust mask, this happens. Well, I've been sanding solidly for about 3 hours now, and I'm really hot. These polytunnels are really hot. I'm pleased I did it this time of year and not in the middle of summer. It must be a nightmare for some people who do it in the middle of summer. But I'm on to the last section now. I've broken it up into 5 sections, and then I change sanding pads every section, and then that way I can budget how many sanding pads I use and try and make the process as quick as possible. So I better just get on with it. Okay, 4 hours later, and I'm really out of breath, and the roof is sanded down. Now, I've not taken it down to car bodywork standards, that would just be a bit ridiculous and unrealistic really. But it's down pretty well, it's on average very even, taken out all the deep scores and marks, had to do a tiny little bit of putty filling. Look how dusty the boat is. So part 1 is sanding the boat down, part 2 is cleaning all this muck off, and I can't see that happening quickly, so better get on with it. I've finished sanding the roof down, been over it with the vacuum to get rid of the dust, and it is exceptionally dusty. It's got absolutely everywhere, and it took a long time to do all that. So it's about 5 hours to sand it down. It took about another 2 hours of vacuuming and cleaning up, and I'm not finished yet. What I'm doing is I'm going over the paintwork with this. It's a special sticky cloth called a tack cloth. It's what painters use to get rid of microscopic bits of dust and whatever. But if I've missed anything, because it's such a big area to clean up, if I've missed anywhere, hopefully I'll pick it up with this, and then that won't contaminate the roller when I try and put the paint on. Well, better get on with this bit then. Okay, I am ready to go. So what equipment am I using? Well, the small roller, foil coated tray, a brush for tipping off, and a cloth at hand just to wipe off any drips. So let's get started. Very much like I did in the crash cover, we're going to load up the roller. This is a foam roller, and we're going to start just rollering it on. So if I leave that there, we can start here. And like we did before, it's going to be a question of doing a small area and then tipping it off. So to start off with, the roller's going to want to take a lot of paint, but hopefully that will fill up. That's much better. You can hear it sort of hissing at you as it's rolling on. That means it's got plenty of paint on it. So we're going to rub that in. Needs a little bit more at the end there. I'm told that to do this properly you sort of relax into it, so it probably pays you before you want to do any painting is have a break beforehand, make sure you've eaten, because once you start there's no stopping. Well, good morning everybody. It is the following day and I put a layer of paint on, and there it is. Now the first coat didn't cover as well as I was hoping for. I was hoping it would be less patchy, quite even, and a beautiful, perfect professional job. That was a big ask, especially with such a light colour. Painting the roof such a light colour because it helps reflect the heat in the summer. This might be a mistake, by the way, because it's going to show every mark and bit of dirt. But that's the theory behind it, and it matches the original colour scheme, which I quite like, and I've got used to it anyway. So I'm just sort of trying to reproduce that, just a better finish and seal the paint in. But the boat has had 13 hours of being sat there overnight with the paint hardening, and it has gone nice and dry. It's all pretty good. So I'm hoping that the second layer of paint, the second coat, will cover it all up, get rid of all that patchiness, and it will turn out to be a really good job. Finish wise, yeah, pretty good, not bad. Just worried that the paint is not covering as well as I'd have hoped for. But we'll put the second coat on and we'll see how it works out. Well, it's a couple of 3 days later and the paint's gone lovely and hard, and have a quick look. Now the camera's going to disguise it quite well, but that paint is actually really good. It's nice and hard now and it's pretty even all over, and I quite like it. That second coat has made quite a difference. Right, I didn't want to touch up the edges and go over the handrails again with the paint soft, because that would have meant leaning on the roof with paint that was still a little bit too wet to deal with. So now it's nice and hard, I can go over it, but we'll cover that in another episode. What I want to do is maybe do a smaller, more concentrated area, show you exactly how I went about the paintwork, try and pass on any hints and tips that I've picked up with my experience of just painting that roof part, and carry on with the rest of the boat as well. But in the meantime, take care and I'll see you soon.
Top one, nice one, get sorted.